I'm going to go ahead and just crack the drain bolt loose here. Okay, so this hopefully is the whole point of this. I'm going to turn the vacuum on. I should be able to pull this drain plug out and the oil not fall out. So here we go. Drain plug's in my hand. Oh my goodness, how stinking cool is that? I'm not getting burned. Watch this, watch, I'll make it quit. All right, my friends, what am I doing? What I'm doing is hooking up a vacuum to the fill location for the oil on your engine. And I've seen a million videos out there where people been trying this or talking about it and having like some redneck designs, if you will. And so I looked into it, and you can buy professional equipment, but when I saw it was like $1,000, I thought, well, let's just see if I can make something better. So this is my attempt to tackle this problem. I think I got about 50 bucks in the whole thing, not including the vacuum, and I think it's awesome. I am sold out. So in this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to buy, how to do it, and how you could do these really amazing safe oil changes by using a vacuum on the fill side. And then I'm going to show you another really cool tool to fill all your oils with this accessory right here. So let's get into it. This is awesome. Okay, what we need to do is, this is the oil cap adapters from that kit. Now, this fitting is universal for our funnel part of this, but that kit, what's so cool about it is all the different models you can do, right? So what's neat is for our vacuum attachment, I want to try to duplicate this taper. I'm going to be quick today because I just want to see if it'll work, but I could even O-ring groove it and so on. We'll see how fast this goes. This is that funnel adapter, but this piece again is going to be meant to get the fittings to hook up the vacuum. So I'm going to go ahead and try and turn this on the lathe right now. I'm going to be super quick about this and try to give it just a little bit of a taper. You really don't need a lathe for this. I just happen to have one. This could be easily done just with a hand grinder, just knocking it down, or whatever you got to sand it. Realistically, spend all day sand by hand. I went ahead and put the O-ring groove in it just to give it that extra little seal, since I had everything right there. But the PVC fits so good, and I think leaks on this vacuum setup really won't affect it. It works shockingly well, but went ahead and made it since I had the tools, and maybe inspire you to do the same. Okay, what we're going to do, like I said, when I put that O-ring on there, the big thing I'm trying not to do is deform this shape, and this is pretty soft, so there's a little bit of threads on there because this isn't at this taper, right? You could see smaller ID, bigger ID. This is a straight cut, but I think it's flexible enough that when I put that O-ring on there, you could see I can get it in there, and this, see how this even tips because of that taper. But all we're trying to do, since it's a vacuum, and we're not actually pulling anything out of here, we're pulling air, we should be good, but I would like to put an O-ring around there just to create that little extra seal. Let's go try that. Oh, these are actually going to be beneficial, that the O-rings are thicker too. I think that's the one I want right there. So fit down my groove nice. Now ideally, the problem is this isn't very thick, but in a perfect world, what I would want is I would want the O-ring to go inside of here. And I know that I don't have that much material, so that's why I said I was just trying to create an extra little, seal to square it up since it's not tapered and give it something versus nothing. That's what I was trying to do. But like I said, on the original one, you could see where the grooves are inside so that they create that friction that way. I don't believe I have enough material. I could go and try to see if I can have if I could force, a smaller one in place and see if it'll just start to go in and it's giving it a little more compression. I think I'm gonna actually leave that one, but anyway, we're experimenting right now. We'll live with that for right now. All right, let's go try it out. Part of the manifold I'm making is all just a bunch of PVC pipes, as you can see, but I need to cut little stub pieces in to fit up to the T and the ball valve and hook things together. So I'm gonna make those quick. I'll just take you along on the journey, and you can see the tools I use and how I get them prepped and ready to go. If you haven't seen these little deburring tools, really slick for IDs, not so great for ODs, but take and clean that cut up there. Does a nice little job. Could just take a little piece of sandpaper or something. Like I said, it doesn't work that great on the outside edge. Take a little grinder to clean that up, but the inside edge makes really nice, quick work. These are razor sharp. I'll put a link below in the video to get these. They come with a bunch of extra bits, but cool. All right, let's keep going. Okay, part of how we're going to accomplish this to simulate that professional setup is I found this plug-in adapter that's able to be controlled remotely. I believe it had a 15 amp capability. I'd have to look up the specs again, but I was very particular on knowing that I wanted it to make sure and be able to run the amperage of a vacuum, okay? But the idea here is we need to pair these together now. This was only like 14 bucks. I'll have a link below. And then the idea is I could be underneath the car and remotely turn that vacuum on and off to cause the oil to drain out. Pretty stinking cool if this works. So I'm gonna go ahead and pair these right now just in case you buy this one so that you could see how to do it. But we plug it in. And then to see that it worked, I'm gonna go ahead here and put a tester on here. We could see right now, showing a fault or it's not working, okay? Which I would expect to. Actually, I probably need to take this out to pair it first. But what I need to do here now is hold this till it flashes. Oh, it's flashing, okay? And then within 120 seconds, okay, so let's just see now if it works. This is showing a light on here. It's not flashing. Okay. On, off. Oh, I know this had a feature I just remembered. It had, you have the ability to turn off the whatever you're using in here. Okay. So you can see I just pushed it on and we have voltage. So I'm curious here. We'll just start nominal here. You can see that it's off. I just have some ghost voltage in here. Oh my God, this is gonna be cool. Let's get super excited about this. Oh, off is the bottom one. Let's grab our vacuum. And this will be the real test, right? Hey, I want to be transparent here. I don't know if I just got a bad one, but it was having a hard time of accepting my vacuum plug. I'm going to try and return it and see how the next one works, but I ultimately was able to get it in there and continue on with the day. But if I do find that one to be bad, I'll come back and change the link later on. Accepting that very well. I had to work pretty hard to get that in there, but let's go ahead here and find out. Obviously, if the vacuum turns on, oh, you know what? The vacuum switch has to be on. I'm gonna turn this back off. So you're gonna have to have the vacuum on, okay? All right, first time using something, playing through the features. So we are done with this part of it. Super excited about that. Come on over here. So let me show you the next piece of how we're able to duplicate that professional setup. Is I found this kit here. You don't need the whole kit, but if you're doing lots of models of vehicles, so we typically have a few different vehicles here at the How to Wrench shop that we are going to be servicing. But anyway, this has all these different vehicles. These are pretty cool because they're magnetic. So you could just put them in your toolbox or wherever you want. This one here is interesting because it's a Hyundai and I believe it fit a Kia, but it happens to be the same as a Dodge. I did some research on the internet, and so this kit did not list a Dodge is one to be able to do, or it didn't list my Dodge year and model or something. So that's why I have this road on here. But the rest of them, we've got the Subaru one in. You can see we got Chrysler, BMW, GM, a bunch of different ones on there. The funnel setup I'm just in love with because it has a screen. The point of this kit is only meant to be used for filling the oil, right? But what I love about this one, and was worth the money, is it has a graduated cylinder, so I can actually put in exactly what I want. We get a lot of oil capacities that say like 5.5 quarts or 3.1 or whatnot. Well, this is going to allow me to measure that, so I'm super excited about that. And then secondly, I love that it has an on-off valve, so I could put the oil in, measure what I want to add, and then dump it in. I don't have to measure it separately and then transfer it over. This is super clear. I won't know how strong this is until I drop it someday, but super excited about that. But let me show you how this, actually I'll just grab one of these. So the idea here is this is tapered with a couple sills. You put this in your fill cap, and then you're just ready to go. Now, if you have a fill cap that's in a weird location, it does have a couple of adapters. So let's say your fill cap went in sideways in the valve cover, you're going to be able to do that. These are all included, and then it also comes with a lid. Pretty stinking cool. But let me show you how we're going to use this. We're going to do this a little bit different. You can see here the vacuum. You can see how we have it all set up here. And now these are all the pieces that I ended up using to make that setup. So this is the one you saw us machine. There's our little adapters. I have this just shoved into the hose. I cut the end of it off here. This is a spare hose. I could go in here and I should be able to pull vacuum on the oil to hold it in, pull the drain plug. We'll find out here in about 1 minute. Now, you might ask what the ball valve is. Well, this is me just not honestly knowing how much this would allow the full flow, but it creates like a breather, if you will, instead of it just potentially running into the vacuum. From everybody I see online doing this, they're just pulling the straight pull of the vacuum and they're not actually sucking any oil out. Since I didn't really know and I wanted this to be successful, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this fully open as an indicator to see if like I needed that breather point, right? You can see what happens. So I could show you here that I'm still able to pull some vacuum on there. Matter of fact, let's just try this real quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on. Watch the hose when I do that. So I'm gonna shut this off. What I might do is just start this like, you know, a quarter of the way open, and you know, this obviously shut means it's just going from here over into the vacuum, and watch how hard that hose pulls. Okay. You see how it's lifting up off the ground because it's pulling everything. Okay, I'm going to try this about a quarter of the way open, and what I notice is the hose is still pulling, so I feel like that's going to be good. But here's the reason I did this. Everybody online's just shoving their hose onto the oil fill and they're not having a problem. But the professional one had this T set up. I haven't seen it in person, but what I could see from photos and videos online of somebody using it, you could tell there was a screen or something in there, which tells me that professional one is being regulated. So I thought this was really cool for us to be able to duplicate that kind of regulation. Once we find that sweet spot, it's going to be pretty cool to be able to use it that way. So here's what we're going to do next. I'm going to crawl under the car, pull the drain plug, be able to turn the vacuum on and show you how this whole system works. I'm going to go ahead and just crack the drain bolt loose here. Okay, so this hopefully is the whole point of this. I'm going to turn the vacuum on. I should be able to pull this drain plug out and the oil not fall out. So here we go. my goodness. How stinking cool is that? I'm not getting burned. Watch this. Watch. I'll make it quit. Push that valve up. Actually, open it all the way open. Yeah, really don't know if there's a benefit, but no matter what, I guess I didn't even try it without the valve. I just don't want to suck any oil into the vacuum by any accident. This is really stupid cool. Oops, forgot to have my breather open. All right, let me come up top. Okay. All right, my friends, there it is. Like I said, I think I'm gonna keep with my design this ability here. I might play around with having that partially closed, but it at least, I think, prevented the oil. No one's like sucking oil up into this, so really I don't know if you need this. Because the professional one's regulated, I'm gonna go ahead and keep mine regulated. This was only $4. The extra little piece of pipe and doing a T fitting. The T was, I think, like $2 instead of 70 cents. But to add this is literally like, let's say $5. I took this apart just to show if we had any oil, and you can actually see there's some traces of an oil mist in here. So I really believe now that regulator has some effect, but what I notice is there's really nothing measurable or anything in the pipe. Let's look at the vacuum side. That's a pretty long hose that we have on here, but dry as can be. Nothing is getting to the vacuum, so I don't think there's anything to worry about there. This whole setup to do this was like 36 bucks. The plug-in was 14, a couple pieces adapter, and you'd have to have a vacuum. That is a really stupid cool way to accomplish duplicating that professional setup. Once again, let's talk about the benefits here. You know, when you're doing oil changes, ideally it's best to have everything as hot as possible. Here in Arizona, it's crazy hot and very hard to work on things when a car comes in smoking hot and the engine and bay and everything's hot as could be, so it can be quite dangerous. So the ability to be able to control that oil not splashing on you is going to be super desirable from a safety perspective. Just allows quite a bit of control, you positioning the oil pan just perfect and everything. So I'm a big fan of this setup. I'll put links below to everything. I'm going to go ahead and finish this oil change. I'll show you a little pro tip as well. One thing I like to do, inside the manual of the vehicle that we track all the mileages, I write down the capacity, the oil filter, tool if needed, what the torque is for that oil filter bolt, and what size tool. I put all that. You can transfer it right on the oil filter cap, and then you aren't going to forget your specifications. Let's go ahead and hook up this whole setup here. Show you how cool that's going to be. So installation's real simple. You take your particular oil fill, match your model. All you do is till the gasket kisses there. I'd start with this in the closed position, and that's it. It's got O-rings nice and tight on there, but think about that. Now for going back and filling your oil, I mean, that's 5,000 times better than you've seen before, where we're just using a funnel and trying to spill it and pour in. I'm curious if this fits a quart jug. Let me grab one. I'm just curious. Oh, nice. So if I was using quarts, I could just grab the whole quart, flip it over, let it drain, and let it drain longer to get everything out of there. So it's nice that they made this wide enough. This was another reason I picked this one, is I was hoping that it was big enough. Some of the other ones I saw had a funnel that was longer to fit in a case, but it wasn't as wide. So again, big reason I'm a fan of this one. Check this out. No matter how clean you think you are, I see a little chunk of something that was floating in there. That was in here. And I could see it's caught by that. I don't think you'd see it on the camera, but it's just another reason that filler is so cool. So let's say that I know in the end of this, I'm gonna need 0.1, right? So pretty small amount here. Let's see, what do we got? It's our minimum here. This is milliliters on this side, so that's, we think about that here. Okay, this is milliliters, that's 500 and that's 1,000, so that'd be 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000, right? So that means this line right here would be 4, and that would be 3, this would be 2, so the minimum amount in here starts at 200 milliliters. So since I only need 100, that means I could put about half of it right there and then check the oil. But we need all 5 of these, 5 quarts. And what I always find is it's super valuable. Can you film how the car's on jacks at a level point? So notice how the car's on jacks. That wasn't just to give me access to get under there. And you'll see I'm not all the way on the top right here. What I have it set at is level. So that way when I check and fill the oil and everything, I'm already in a perfect spot to do what I need to do. I'm already finding this useful too. Let jugs, completely drain out. To combine jugs is super cool. I'm sure I'm going to think of how great this tool is going to be more and more as I use it. That's it, my friends. Make sure and like, share, and subscribe. Use the links below to purchase any of this for yourself. Leave a comment what you thought about the video. Make it a great day, and as always, keep wrenching.